Good evening. We've already called the meeting to order before going into executive session. Now we're reconvening in open session, and as we do, I'd like to read a short statement. The public is welcome to make comments or read prepared statements during the public comment portion of the meeting. We ask that these be limited to 3 minutes. We're happy to receive any written statements you may have. Please understand that criticisms of individual staff members are not allowed during this time, but should you wish to file a complaint about an individual, we have a process for receiving and considering this. Also, the committee does not respond directly to public comments or engage in verbal exchanges during this time. Our policy is to listen to your statement or question at the moment and then either provide you with a response to your inquiry after it has been researched or make your topic a future agenda item so that more information can be provided to everyone. So, with that said, welcome. And if anyone would like to come up and participate publicly, they're welcome to come to the microphone, please.
Right here?
Yes, that'd be great.
Good evening, John Patala, a resident. Just had a graduate last year, graduate 4 years ago, will be a senior in college. And why I'm here is about our declining enrollment and what my opinions are about why this is happening in this day and age of school choice, whatnot. You might not have to do, people can go to tech school, that's fine. That's a whole different can of worms. But I think when the policy board as a whole, which I think, I don't know if this is a criticism, I guess it is a criticism, but it's not of this board. But when it's out in public that this board is insinuating that the student body and the community as a whole are either racist or bullies, why would people want to keep their kids here? I brought my daughter here when people were leaving left and right from Irving. Not looked on very well by the people of Irving, I can tell you that right now. She had a great education. She's at Wesleyan University right now. Tremendous school. My son's going to UMass Friday. And I think as a whole, from what I watch these meetings, I read the papers, I think we've done a disservice to our community and our school as a whole to have these kids leave. I think we've given the teachers a bad rap. I think our staff is just as good as any other staff in Franklin County, but it's never out there. All we hear about is you're racist, you're bullies, we're gonna have a study, we're gonna ask the people why they left. No one ever asked myself or my wife why we stayed. But again, why should you? Why should you? I walked up the boardwalk to Hillcrest, and the only person that would probably mean anything to was Mrs. Oates. And I lived downtown for 27 years, and that's where I'm from. And this school did great things for me. And I think we're doing a disservice to our community and our school with some of the things we get out there in the public. Every other school has its warts. They're never out in public, never. Which one is right, which one is wrong? I don't know. But when we have a mass of kids leaving the district, when we don't have a lot of kids to begin with, and they're not going to better schools, in my opinion, not going to better schools. So something needs to be done. I mean, that Facebook page that's out there now is about positive GMHS is great. I'm not on Facebook, my wife is, my kids are, it's great, they're on it. But I think this board needs to support something like that, and I imagine you will support it. But again, what we read in the paper about what this board thinks of our community is not great. It's not great. And I think you've ostracized both sides of the issue. I mean, I don't want to get back into the foolish mascot thing, but did you see how Mohawk did it? They pulled the Band-Aid off, and that was it. I've been in this community for, again, 49 years. And I would say people shouldn't be mascots. But you know what? Other people have been in this community just as long as I have or longer, thought differently. When we sent out the think tank about, well, what do you want to do? You were looking for something that you thought was going to happen. And it's like, the community is like, why are you asking? We should have just changed. And I think that battle really hurt both sides of the community. And, you know, and the people now that started it, they're gone. They're gone. My son took the Native American history class. He disagreed with me. Well, we should keep the mask. I said, well, I disagree. And we had that discussion at our house. And again, I've been here my whole life. I've been around, you know, I go to communities all of Massachusetts. No one said anything about that. Oh, you're from the power town. That was it. Nothing about any mascot. But it just seems we seem to bring everything out of here that it's negative. In the paper, it's negative, it's negative, it's negative. Then we throw something nice in once in a while, but it's just not, it's not enough. And I think we've done a great disservice to the school, to the community, to the staff, who I think did a great job. Both my kids, for me, for my wife, we've been here forever. I wish more people were here tonight. I'm probably going to come back again. And to be honest with you, I didn't come before because I didn't want any repercussions against my kids, whether that was just in my head or not. That's just being honest. I don't have anything else to say, but I just wish we could get more positivity out of here about our school, about our community. And it's driving people away to places that are, I'm not going to say worse, but are the same. I think we got a great, diverse community here. Again, there's a difference between where I lived, downtown Turners Falls, than where the people lived on the hill and in Gill. I mean, we know we live, there's more diversity where I came from than, you know, I don't know. I can't say where you came from, I don't know. But it's sort of sad that we have 42 kids in the class or whatever. And I just think that sometimes the airing of dirty laundry, again, I don't know if it's right or wrong, should be coming out of this board. I think we need to, there's the same issues that every other school has, but you never hear about. Never hear about. That's all I have to say, and I won't be moving anywhere too soon, I don't think, so I thank you for your time, and go blue, and I hope we turn this around.
Thank you so much,
Thank
John.
you. Thank you. Upcoming events.
I can do that. August 29th and 30th, preschool and kindergarten orientation at Hillcrest from 8:30 to 3. August 29th, the rest of the kids, 1 through 12, start school. September 5th, the middle school, high school is picture day, and the 25th is open house at the middle school, high school. Jen usually does a lot of other
I know.
things. Anyone else have anything like that?
Do we have a date for when the preschool and kindergarten students start in class, perhaps?
Yes, so orientation meetings for families. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can sit up at the mic just
So
so
the
that.
people at home can't
So
hear
it
you.
gets
Oh,
broadcast
yeah.
over. So if people are listening for that, they'll
Okay.
hear it.
Preschool and kindergarten orientation. Preschool is only at Hillcrest, but kindergarten is at both Hillcrest and Gill. Orientation meetings are Thursday and Friday of this week, so the 29th and 30th. And then preschoolers and kindergartners will begin on Tuesday the 3rd. Kindergartners will have half days, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Kindergarten will have its first full day of kindergarten on Friday the 6th. Preschoolers will have 4 half days that first week, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Preschool begins its first full day on Monday, September 9th.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
else have any other events or even attendance at events? Okay, thank you. And we'll have to check and see if we can line up a student representative.
We have Caitlin Minor.
I was gonna say something. That's another.
You guys should come every meeting.
I know, see, we get
Yes.
information this way.
Yes, Caitlin
Yeah.
Minor has
Join us.
agreed to be our
Okay.
school committee rep.
Caitlin?
Yes,
She, what year is she?
she's a senior.
Is she on the,
Student
Student
council?
council?
Yes,
Student-
She has been.
yes. And I can easily recruit some juniors to be with them.
I have something to add. So the student council at the high school started an Instagram page, and it's actually very cool. And one of the cooler things about it is what do you call like the president, vice president?
Executive board?
Executive
Executive board.
Is that
E-board,
what
they
it is?
call themselves.
E-board, okay. So the
E-board.
e-board actually has a picture of each of them and a little description about the person. It's quite cool. So if you want to see about Caitlin Minor, you can see that there. But it's a fun little
And they were
thing to
kind
check
enough,
in
they
on.
set up a whole big dessert type thing.
That's on there, a picture for the
yes,
teachers,
so they did
for
an
the
incredible
welcome
job.
back. It's pretty cool, yes.
Yes, good group of kids.
That's great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The Instagram is TFSTUCO. Turner's Falls Student Council CO.
Okay, I got it.
TFSTUCO.
All right.
It's very cool.
And Teresa, hello, anything for us from Irving?
I hesitate after just coming in on that. Yes, I do have some thing to report. And late because I was working on it. I had no idea this gentleman would be here. I had to make a decision by June 30th as to whether I would agree to be on this committee again, and it took me till June 28th to decide to do it. I have spent, as next month, one whole year on this committee, and I knew things had changed greatly since I had last been on this committee in the 80s. So I tried to sit and just listen. Sometimes it got the better of me and I talked, but I really tried to sit and listen to what was going on and learn. And I did that for a whole year. And when it came to making a decision about whether I was going to do this or not, I was really torn. What got me to come back was that I have grandchildren in the system, and that's why I'm here, because there are a lot of things that were of concern to me, and I just didn't know whether I would be able to be of any use at all, and whether it was a good use of my time, to be perfectly honest. After this gentleman came in, I don't want to be negative about this, because my grandkids are going to go to this school. But something happened on Saturday that just makes me have to speak up. There was an advertisement in the Greenfield Recorder. Now, it doesn't look like an advertisement, but in actuality, it is. And that's what I don't think I see, and I'm concerned because I'm not hearing that people understand this. And this is what this gentleman was talking about. Anytime anything appears in the paper, it is an advertisement for this school. And I don't think that, or anything that goes up there, these are all advertisements for the school. 5 days ago, Turners Falls football coach Chris LaPointe leaned against Mark Sullivan's pickup truck on a distant practice field behind the high school. It was the same spot where LaPointe had gathered his first group of players. That's right, he remembered, back here 10 years ago. Sully and LaPointe talked about the days when there were tryouts and cuts and junior varsity teams. The numbers were low when LaPointe took over, but going up. Now they're low and going down. Only 10 students showed up for the practice on Monday, and one left early for a family emergency. That is 10 between two schools, because as far as I know, Pioneer kids could still play No, that has stopped? The
I
agreement
don't
that,
believe they had any this year.
right, but they could if they wanted to, but we couldn't even get,
We tried, we traveled up to Pioneer.
right, I
Things were
understand,
done.
but that's what I'm saying. 10 kids showed up between two schools, that's it. During the practice break, a player told the point the recruiting outlook was bleak. That's an advertisement for our school as far as I'm concerned.
Timmy,
When she's done.
I'm sorry, I thought.
I was just holding my hand up until Jane looked and
Oh,
nodded
okay.
at me.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Teresa.
That's okay. And then I went to my family reunion, and I was talking to my cousin who graduated from Brinkville, and I said, you know, only 10 kids, doesn't look like there's gonna, oh my God, she goes, no turkey day, no, you know, her kids didn't, she never went to this school, her kids didn't go to the school, and she was all upset about Turnipseed not having a football team. Because, and what it says is that there are very wide ramifications for everything that's done at this table. And I don't always hear that there's an understanding of that when I sit at this table. And that I find disturbing. I'm going to do an analogy for you because this is the best way I can do it. I see the school, the adults in the school, not the kids, the adults in the school, in terms of business. School committee is the board of directors. We have a CEO, we have a CFO, we have middle management, we have workers, the teachers. In a business, the prime thing that you have to do to stay in business is have customers. And what I have seen when I have sat here is that there is not a recognition among people here and in the school system in general as to who your customer is. Now, I spent 11 years as a Subway owner. My late husband and I opened the 17th Subway in Massachusetts. I have 11 years as a small business owner, and then I thought I knew what customer service was like until I went to a corporate setting. And then I learned what customer service is like on an international level. And the one thing that I took away from that experience was metrics. And that's the thing that I keep talking about that I find so discouraging that I don't see here. That is absolutely important.
Did you see our packet?
I'm sorry?
Did you see our packet for today's meeting?
Yeah, that's what, I wrote all over it. The thing, parents are not parents. They are customers. If they decide, you have to have, this is your customer base.
I'm sorry. I really don't want to interrupt you. I really don't. But this portion of the meeting was for you to report from your school district. We're going to be having conversations otherwise during the meeting, but this section was for you to report anything that the Irving district wanted to let us know about.
Well, the
and I don't
Irving
wanna miss
district
that.
has not met. I haven't been able to talk to them because they don't meet until September.
Yes, because
But-
we were going to see them, but
Right,
they kept changing.
but I keep hearing from parents as they get ready to come back to school about those kids who are not coming to this school. And so it is a pressing issue as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you don't want to hear what I have to say,
I'm not saying we don't, I'm just saying the time and the place isn't necessarily in this part of the agenda.
Okay.
I'm supposed to stick to that, that's part of the rules. Unfortunately, there are a lot of rules that regulate school committee meetings, and we can't necessarily just do it in the way that we want to, sadly. And I do apologize for that. But we'll be more than happy to hear your comments as we get to the discussions, if that's okay.
sure.
Thank you. Cassie?
So I just wanted to clarify so Teresa doesn't feel like she's not being listened to. So, you're the Irving rep, so you're basically stating the opinion of the Irving School Committee the same way if I went to the Irving meeting, I would be speaking on behalf. And I think we're just wary, we don't want, if you were to go back and your words were to be taken as coming from the entire committee.
Right, but
So-
what I will say is that because over the summer, I have heard so many people from Irving talking about, and I didn't realize all these kids from Irving were in other schools, that this is a huge thing that I am going to bring to the school committee, because as a representative of the taxpayers of Irving, I think that the school committee that is in charge of this should take a look and see exactly what percentage of kids are choicing out, and whether this decision to stay at Turner's makes sense. And that's, that's a hard thing for me to say. My kids went to school here. My grandkids are going to school here. But these are the kinds of things that I have to bring forward to the committee that, and I just wanted to explain some of the reasons what is going on in the community, that, we have all these kids. It used to be that a school committee could watch what was happening with the kids. And in Irving, because we don't even have a high school, we have kids going all over the place. And we have no way of keeping track of them. And so that's the other thing that I'm going to bring forward to the committee, is because the school choicing has created such a different scenario. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you. Timmy, I'm sorry, I forgot you were waiting.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't say it was. This is the reality.
Timmy?
I'd like to comment on one thing you said.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the body shop so that I can get up the whole flight of
Yes.
stairs. I go 3 times a week for 1 hour minimum. I'm with a trainer for 3 hours a week. And there's a lady that goes there also, who is on the Mohawk School Committee, the high school committee there. And we chit-chat back and forth. And she had commented about how they're having their trouble getting a team, and football team. And I think that this is the scene. And I think that there are a lot of things that are affecting sports. They had, and I'm not great on football, but I see a gentleman in the audience. We have a couple at the table. Maybe they know a quarterback that just bowed out yesterday or something and said, well, that's it, guys.
Yeah.
And that's on big pay, top quality quarterback, and he just bowed out. So I think that we do pretty well. I think that the schools are all getting together and working together on their sports. It's hard to get teams together. And I think that this gives the kids a good opportunity for athletics and sports and learning the things that you learn in sports. But I heard what you said. But I don't know if you were aware that.
Oh, yeah, it was in the
Mohawk
front
and
page
other
of the
schools.
same
Pardon?
paper. It was in the front page of the same paper.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
that they were having, oh,
Yeah.
okay. I haven't read Security's paper. I hate to admit to it.
Thank you.
I have a whole
Heather?
pile.
I mean, I know that this is supposed to be about Irving, but one thing that you just have to do a quick Google search, and football enrollment is down dramatically everywhere. I have to think that the brain injury stuff is making an impact, but it is across the board. It is by no means just our area.
I just want to say quickly too, I have a football player that will be playing for Mohawk this year, and we spent Adam Graves, Chris LaPointe, myself as a parent, not a school committee member, other parents did a lot of PR, and we visited Pioneer, and there were a lot of positive things that came out of it. Those weren't written about in the paper because we don't choose what goes in the paper.
Right.
And sadly, sometimes it's the negativity that sells more than anything else. And so you hear about that, and it's sad, but we have no control what goes into the Greenfield Recorder or the Montague Reporter, and we can only hope, because I know, being a parent and on PTOs, there's been plenty of times we've sent out invitations for all-school meetings and events that are happening, and we get nothing. And then one little negative thing happens, and you hear about it for weeks. And unfortunately, I wish we had control over that, but we don't, and that's tough, a tough situation to be in.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're ready for the superintendent's report.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Sabrina, do you have paper copies of that? Thank you.
Only
So,
because I write all of
speaking
them.
to the Mr. Patala side of the house, I would say, I believe all 22 seventh graders from Irving chose this school district last year.
Yes.
And next meeting, I'll tell you what percent came this year. So, very good news. Speaking to you, I would say we've got a district improvement plan draft tonight, and from each of these folks, we have a school improvement plan. There's metrics right there. We're doing this because we want your feedback about those metrics. So this is maybe the evening you've been waiting for a while, Teresa. So welcome those ideas. Okay, I've got 6 items here tonight. Number 1, I'm pleased to let you know that a group of supportive parents led by Jen Cadron have created a Facebook page titled Positively Gill Montague Regional School District. The intent of the page is, according to the posting, to post good things about our local school district and the multiple schools within it. We welcome photographs, videos, event postings, anecdotes about something you love about Gill Montague Regional School District. This page was created by a community member, alumni, and current parent of GMRSD student in an effort to spread the word loudly about what amazing things are happening in our schools. So, and then now it's back to me saying, already you can find inspiring news on such information as plans for our incoming senior class to hold something called a senior sunrise gathering tomorrow morning, is it, at 5:45?
Not tomorrow.
Oh, the day after.
No, the day after.
Getting ahead of myself.
Day for kids.
I know, don't.
Okay, so that's happening. That's a lot of school spirit. And the kids all got together, and I don't know what they did for you all yesterday, the faculty, but they had snacks and food and stuff across the hall
Yes,
for
they did.
everybody.
They did an incredible job.
Yeah, so kids are doing that. Also, there was, where am I here? There's a heartwarming post about over a dozen families that have donated funds to provide every Hillcrest first grader with a book of their own for once a month for the whole coming school year. So that's the really cool stuff, and that's, if newspapers aren't going to do it for us, we have to do it for ourselves. And
Exactly.
It's awesome that a parent is leading that.
And I think that deserves a little round of applause because positively Gill Montague.
It's so good. It really is.
Okay, number 2, the schools and school grounds are in great physical shape, the best, I think, in my 6 years here. Our custodians, maintenance crew, and technology staff have worked really hard and with great care to make things look terrific. And also, there's running water, I think.
I think there's a comment here.
So, just on a positive note, I just wanted to add that Jen Cadron actually lives in Irving, and school choices her son to Sheffield.
Yeah.
That's how much she loved the school when they moved.
Another applause.
Not that anything's wrong with Irving, but they moved while he was a student at Hillcrest, and they stayed because they loved the
Because
community
they
so
were here
much.
already.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
So-
Thank you. We don't hear all the positive things.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just wanted to say I was so impressed when I walked into the school today. It is beautiful. Heath has really, I think, made a significant difference in how he's got the staff to get the school ready, because I was here last year and I see a big difference, and I think it's huge.
Okay. Also, I wanted to mention that our administrative assistants at each school and in central office had a very busy summer and productive summer, ensuring that schedules, hiring processes, and we hired 29 or so people, budgeting and other preparations, all were done with a lot of attention to detail and done really well. So, my third item, the Montague Select Board is moving forward with asking the town moderator to appoint 3 members to a regionalization study or regionalization planning committee. I like to get the word study in there. As you recall, the select boards of Montague, Gill, and the towns that make up the Pioneer Valley Regional School District have voted to establish planning committees. According to the appropriate statute, each local planning committee will consist of 3 members appointed by the town moderator. The Montague Town Administrator has requested that our school committee make a recommendation to the town moderator of the school committee member it wishes to have join this group. They have requested that the school committee submit this recommendation by September 19th. as this information was not available at the time that we posted this meeting agenda, it wasn't put on this agenda, so I'm expecting you might want that on the September 10th agenda. Item number 4, based upon the feedback received so far, it looks like we will schedule the next civic leaders group to meet on Tuesday, September 17th at 6:30 p.m. And we now have confirmed, Sabrina has confirmed, that the Montague Senior Center will be available as the regular meeting spot.
Teresa?
Have we, this says it's the select boards from the towns. Have we heard from the school committee, Pioneer Valley Regional School Committee?
I can answer
Can you,
that, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, what's the date? Maybe it's the 11th. I think the 11th, our friend Steve Hemmon and Russell Dupree are going to be at the Pioneer Valley School Committee meeting to make the last presentation they did for us, or not both of them, but Steve's presentation, and it's on their agenda then.
Okay.
Number 5, we all recognize that an important component of developing strong family and school relationships is having a clear, consistent, and user-friendly system for homeschool communications. Last spring, the school committee and the administration formulated a plan to move in this direction. Some elements of that plan are subject to negotiation with our education association and are currently being drafted, but they're not yet finalized. Because of this, we will have to begin the school year with the same practices in place last year in terms of how schools communicate newsletters and announcements and grades and homework assignments and so on. We recognize that there currently exists some variation in how teachers communicate with parents. Specifically, some faculty make use of the Remind app and other ways of like texting informally with individual parents, and other teachers don't do that. They stick to phone calls and emails, and so I'm anxious to make further progress in this area. We've gotten lots of feedback from families that they're not crazy about that mix. They would like us to be kind of more phone-centric because that's what the parents are, if we can be. And so that's unfortunately not something where we were ready to roll out, but I just want to make sure everybody knows it's definitely on our radar to keep moving along on that topic. And finally, by now, you've all read the news that despite great efforts, by our coaches, our athletic director, Adam's been driving kids to practice over in Mohawk until we get a bus system going. They worked really hard to try and keep football going. Many people have very poignantly expressed their sadness about the loss of the program and of long-standing family traditions. Everybody here is really aware of that. We hope the situation is temporary, and we are, it's not, the MIAA has the last word about whether or not they'll accept this co-op arrangement because it's kind of been done at the last second, but I'm pretty hopeful that it'll work out. And, when this came through, this idea of the co-op arrangement, Joanne got on the phone right away to see how we could get buses. We looked into using the bus that we just got through the grant, but there's an issue with that where a coach could drive it. But if you're going to hire a bus driver to drive that vehicle, there's all kinds of red tape and licensure issues that would get in the way. But we have a workaround, and I just want everybody to know we're really trying to make sure that is supported and works well.
Teresa?
Anybody know how it works if school shuts down a program like football? How hard it is to start it up again? You mentioned it was temporary.
Cassie, do you have some information?
Well, I don't have the technical information. I think that would be a question for Adam Graves. But I will say that there's a lot of 8th graders that are playing now, and I am super hopeful that the school year goes the way that it goes this year, and we have them staying here to become Turners Falls High School students, and that we do have the ability in the future to have a football team, because really it's a numbers game. We just didn't have the numbers, and Mohawk didn't either, and so I think it's really sad and whatnot, but we also have to be really thankful that we were able to reach out to Mohawk and make that happen, because I know my son was bummed, but he just wanted to play football.
Yeah.
He's just happy that he can play football.
And that's the
and
most
I think
important
there were so
thing
many
that
people
our
that worked
students
on
get.
that, so.
Yep.
And to answer your question, I don't think there are any big things that get in the way of reviving a program. So Joni might know.
You're correct.
Or Sabrina, maybe.
Yeah, only because I have experience with Pioneer and a football player.
Right.
And I had one at Tech too. But anyway, in 2007, a group of parents, and I was included, did fundraising, and we brought football back after 25 years of not
Right.
having a program.
Right.
So very proud of that fundraising effort.
Yeah.
And it
We'll call
didn't
you
last
if
long
we
though.
need
It's gone now.
We'll
It was
call you if
because
we need
there was a
money.
huge cohort of Pop Warner kids, that there were 17 seniors on that team when they finally graduated. But they all left.
Yeah.
All together. That's what happens.
They
The
graduate.
program just falls apart when the group
hard.
of kids leave. And I don't know how popular Pop Warner is, but that's where you get the kids feeding up into the high school and middle school.
And then there's the issue of how popular football is
In general.
in general.
Yeah, kids are doing other things,
Yeah.
like gaming.
Right, yeah, that's true.
That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Sullivan? Thank you. Business and operations report from Joanne?
Sure. I have our building and grounds things that I've listed for you. Different projects, the large projects that we have been working on. We have an engineering study. So a year ago, we wrote a grant, a meta grant, to do an engineering study to look at the heating systems at Hillcrest and at the admin building before we remove the oil tanks. So the town has been involved in this, and we do have that engineering study moving now. So we have signed a contract, and that is in process. So as soon as we have the results of that, we'll be meeting with the capital committee for the town of Montague, and from there, the town will be able to make decisions on what to do with the oil tanks. The pillar project, that, we had a quote, we went to town meeting, we received the money, but then we had to go out to bid. So we had a quote, but we still had to go out to bid because of the amount of the money. So we have now contracted with Renaissance Construction to do that project. And that's something that could be done while school is in session, so we don't need to wait to do that. Both towns, Montague and Gill, approved money for us to purchase a pickup truck to replace the one that went down last year. And so we are expecting that any day now, the pickup truck with the 7.5-foot plow. The security entrances at Hillcrest and Gill, it was the asbestos pre-work that had to be done, the inspection of the asbestos that's really held up the project at Hillcrest, and then we're doing some work to see if we need to go out to bid for the Gill project. The sidewalks at the high school, you know, if you've walked out here, you've noticed that they're getting worse. We have an engineer working on the design specs for that right now. And it's the same engineer that the town of Montague works with. So once we have the design and all the specs put together, then we'll need to go out to bid. So the money's been approved, so we can get that going, but we won't be able to do it until next summer. The electrical upgrade at Gill, we're working with an engineer for that also. And she's updating the specs that we had from the previous bid. So once we have those specs updated, we'll be able to go back out to bid for that and move forward with that, but that'll also be next summer. And then the Gill flood damage, we did have to go out to bid for one of the items for that, which was the brains of the heating system, the thing that tells the rooms what temperature to be. So we went out to bid, we've contracted for that. So we have been working on a lot of bidding and a lot of projects over the summer. We just haven't finished anything. So we're really hoping that we can get a couple of these knocked out in the fall here.
Pillars, please.
The pillars are the number one, yes, yes. And then we are beginning to work on our fiscal '21 capital request, because the town of Montague would like to receive those by the end of October. So we're gonna need to start working on that. Some of the thoughts that we had, and I'll just share with you what Heath and I went through. At the high school, the tennis courts are gonna need to be refinished. The Gill floors in the multipurpose room, the hallway, the entryway. Those are things that we need to look at. At Hillcrest, the same thing, the multipurpose room, the hallways, and the window facade, the facade of the building at Hillcrest, where the window sills, the windows were
Yes.
replaced, but the sills were
Yes.
not. So we need to do more work to get more estimates for that, to bring that back to you in a package, probably in early October, but we may not have really good estimates by then. So I think what we're going to do is have some sort of estimates, but we're gonna work with the town to see, if we can continue to try to get those, like a better estimate to work on, to work with. And then at Sheffield, we've talked about putting a wall up and separating the library into like an extra room. There's 2 doors, the air and heat should be fine in there, the windows are fine, but that would give us more instructional space, and that's a very big room. And the admin building could use some work on pointing of the bricks. So those were just some areas that Heath and I talked about this week, but we'll get deeper into that soon and bring more back to you.
Just out of curiosity, when was the deadline previously?
I believe it was in December or like the 1st of
Or
January.
even
Oh, wow.
January 1st.
Yeah.
at some
Big
point,
month.
yeah.
Yeah, what they feel is that the finance committee is receiving all the capital projects and they're receiving all of the budgets all at the same time. And it's just too difficult to manage, to manage both of them with the people that they have.
So just a quick question there. So does it seem that we might want to think about having our building and facilities subcommittee perhaps meet to be involved in that?
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
so we probably should do that at some point in September. Would be a good time. The microgrid study, so all of this is our buildings subcommittee. So the microgrid study is something that the town of Montague has been working on, and he's been involved, and they're looking at a solar canopy, possibly over the parking lot and up by Hillside Road, both at the high school. So they're gonna be having a kickoff meeting or some sort of a meeting, and they would like all the relevant school officials and stakeholders to be there. And so they did invite somebody from the school committee to attend that. It's gonna be on September 5th at 1 p.m. I'll be there, superintendent will be there, and Heath will also be there. Do we want to choose somebody from the building subcommittee?
That probably would make sense if someone from that subcommittee were available.
What time is it?
It's
1
at
o'clock.
1 p.m. on September 5th.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do anything during school hours.
Who is it, the Energy Committee?
No, building.
From on their side?
Steve Ellis, Walter, I believe,
Okay.
and they have a consultant.
Oh, I see.
Have you heard from the Capital Improvements Committee? Sorry.
I have not.
I hadn't either.
No,
Well,
I've been in
could
touch with
make this
Steve
meeting
Ellis.
if you want.
You would be able to?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. So then we have someone there who's,
Yeah.
that's great, Mike.
No,
Thank
it
you.
seems to see Capital Improvements
Yeah.
sort of assignment.
Right,
No
it
problem.
kind of all goes together.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And the one other item for capital, sorry, I missed one, would be our playgrounds at Hillcrest and at Sheffield. So we have been looking at those. We've talked to Walter about potentially getting a block grant to do that. We do have some funding from our preschool tuitions from last year that can help pay for a playground. And Sarah and I are talking with it's called Kaboom. It's a playground funding group, so we have a lot of different potential funding sources for that. Okay. So, the next item is the operating statement for fiscal 19. We've closed out the year. And so in your packet, you have a printout of the final operating statement. The revenue, if you look at that report, the revenue, the bottom line all the way to the right, shows that we have an excess of $222,000. in revenue. So that money, the only thing that can happen with that money is it flows into E&D at the end of the year. So the majority of that money came from excess Irving tuitions and from our miscellaneous revenue that we had received, a payout, settlement. Our charter reimbursement is down, but it's good because our charter tuition is down. Our transportation reimbursement was up a little bit. And then if you see the two lines that start with Medicaid, we have Medicaid reimbursement and Medicaid contra account. So that is our payback on the Medicaid, the $47,000 a year. And auditors said when I talked to them about how should this be recorded? Is this an expense? Is this a negative revenue? And so they suggested creating this Medicaid contra account. It's like an opposite of a revenue account, but it's still in the revenue section to offset that. So that's where you see that, and that's how you'll see that each year. And when we build our budget in fiscal '21, we'll do the same thing. In the expense section, you see our surplus is primarily in the benefits, about $220,000. And then we also have a surplus in our tuition line. Bringing us to the bottom line, surplus for expenses of the $257,276. When you add that number to the 222, you get our overall surplus of the 479 that goes into E&D, which becomes available for fiscal '21 budgeting. So I'm estimating that our E&D will be certified right around, write this down, $560,000. So we're bringing it back up to where it should be. You know, 560 is a pretty comfortable number for it to be there. It's there for emergencies. You could have a $200,000 tuition, surprise tuition that you weren't planning on in the budget. So 560 is a pretty comfortable number.
What did we have left over in the E&D from this year, past year?
E&D right now is certified at, I think it's about 230,000.
That was left over that we didn't.
Right.
Fund the budget again, Timmy. We can fund the budget again. Just kidding,
Okay.
sorry.
Right.
And
And we did
little
fund
school computer round.
150,000.
Pardon?
We funded 150,000 toward the fiscal '20 budget.
Yeah.
So that's taken into account when I'm saying that the certified number should be about 560. Okay, our school choice, at the very bottom of the page, you see that's where the school choice revolving is, the circuit breaker revolving. Those are ending up both a little bit higher than what we expected. So we were able to spend a little bit less in those accounts. So those numbers are a little bit higher. And preschool revolving, 37,000, that's money, we collected tuitions for preschool last year. And because we're not gonna be collecting tuitions this year for preschool, we decided not to spend that money on a salary and save it so we can put it toward our playground. And we didn't need it to help fund a portion of the salary. Typically, we had about $10,000 that we were collecting each year, and we would set that aside to pay for a salary. So these funds are gonna go toward the playground.
Okay, so just to clarify, preschool will not have tuition
That's right,
this year in our district.
right.
Okay.
And they can also drop their kids off for breakfast unattended this year. Didn't mention that.
A very small selection of
Oh,
families
yes,
who have
it's-
already signed up.
It's not open enrollment, okay.
It was open enrollment, but
Right.
that closed.
13
People just
There are
snapped it right
13
up.
families doing
Yes, I
that.
think there are 13
Great.
families who took advantage of that.
Right.
But I think
Sorry,
that's important information.
You
Could
can't
be.
make 45 3-year-olds get up at 8 a.m.
Come
on parents.
And the rest of the preschoolers can arrive at school with their parents and have breakfast.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes.
They still may access
Right.
breakfast,
They-
Absolutely,
that's right.
breakfast for everybody.
definitely.
So that's what I have for the operating statement. So, we're working on getting all of the salaries updated for the first payroll of the school year. with teachers back. And once we have that all in place, then I'll be able to do an operating statement for fiscal '20 to look at where we're at there. The next item is transportation reimbursement. So this time of year, as school's starting, people are calling, they're asking about the buses, and I'm explaining, why the first grader doesn't get a bus when the kindergartner can get a bus. So I have your policy in here, and in your policy, in the indented sections with the bullets, it says all kindergarten students, except those living in the immediate proximity to the school or within 0.5 miles, so half a mile from the school, can get a bus, which means the children in downtown Turners can get a bus when they're in kindergarten to Hillcrest. But when they get to first grade, it goes with all the other students, 1.5 miles from the school, which means downtown Turners Falls now is a walking zone for Hillcrest and a walking zone for Sheffield. So that leads to confusion. So in preschool, there is no bus. In kindergarten, it's a half mile. And in first grade, it's 1.5 miles. And so that leads to confusion. So I've already taken some calls from families asking about this. And so, this is something I just wanted to bring to your attention, that the policy makes it confusing for families.
Cassie?
I feel like this would be a really good time to plug the walking school bus
Yes.
that's going to be happening this year.
Yeah.
Again, they meet at 2nd Street and walk up to school together. 2nd Street Bakery on 4th Street.
Second on
Street on 4th.
Snow, sleet,
Yeah.
freezing rain, shine.
So
What
if there's
time?
any concerns, yeah.
You could maybe just give us a little description for people who are unfamiliar of what time and how it operates and who is with the children. That'd be
Absolutely.
wonderful.
There's usually generally 2 staff members. We have a cafeteria monitor who, rain or shine, he shows up every single day. Did this all last year, he's doing it again this year. His name is Mr. Johnson. And then we have different varied staff members who participate and volunteer their time to walk down to 2nd Street to pick up students and then walk them back up to Sheffield. We actually have agreed to walk a student over from Hillcrest as well, because siblings who might be coming up, it doesn't make sense to say yes to one and not the other, especially since Hillcrest is literally across the field. So, because Sheffield is starting at 8:15 this year, as far as opening up our doors to the playground, we are meeting approximately, we usually go down there about 5 of 8, 7:55, 8 o'clock, and then walk the students up to school. Again, every day.
Including Thursday?
Including Thursday, yes, we start Thursday, yeah. Walking school bus starts Thursday.
Thank you. I think that's an amazing
It really is.
program.
That is really awesome.
Actually, there was a day in the spring when other adults were invited, and I did go and walk up and chatted with a grandmother who was walking a child up, and it's a really nice program. It's really nice.
I get to see you most mornings, which is always a pleasure. It's fun.
Okay, so that is all I have. Regarding the transportation, we did buy the new software, and I'm putting routes in to the software and making sure that, our routes look good. Because Mescus has put together the routes based on the enrollments that came from the admin assistants at the schools. But I'm putting it into this software so I can see if we can manipulate any of the routes, make some changes in the future, but there's no changes this year, unless there's no kids living in certain areas.
And I just want people to know that it's a concern, but there is the Mass General Law, which is the 1.5. Is there no exception to that? If our bus is already down there, is there no way to get an exception from the state?
We can bus kids anywhere we want. It's the reimbursement
Oh,
is the
right,
thing
right,
from the state. Yeah, they certainly don't prohibit that.
Right, so the state says, you can do whatever you want, but we will reimburse students that live more than 1.5 miles. So we looked at adding a bus. What would it cost to bus every single student from downtown and Turners? And when you think about that area, that might be 1 mile. They might live 1 mile from the school. So if you're going 1 mile from the school down toward Avenue A, should you go 1 mile from the school toward Montague Center and toward Millers Falls and toward Montague City? And, it creates a lot more students. And so when I looked at how many students that would, how many students would that be? and it was 2 added buses, which would be probably about $120,000, $140,000. I can't remember what the bus cost is. It could be $70,000 a bus now. So, and we can't add them for a part of the year and not for the full year. Right. So that's why we can't. And if we open the doors and say, everybody get in, we have a clown bus.
Yeah.
Any questions for Joanne? Thank you. Okay, school committee reports. We need to vote. The warrant subcommittee has signed the warrants. I will entertain a motion to approve warrant number 2007, dated August 28th, 2019, for the total of $111,000, $744.19.
Moved.
Heather moved.
Second.
Cassie seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Looks unanimous. Thank you. Okay. And now moving on to business. We have the district improvement plan and the school improvement plans. And it seemed to make sense to look at the district plan overall first and then the school plans. And we're thankful to have the principals with us for those. So, Michael?
I think I'll operate from over there,
Okay.
because I have this on slide.
And we all have a copy of the district plan in our packet.
You should come every meeting. This is great. This is like this morning, all over again. Why can't I? The arrows. So I have a couple, 2 minutes on precursor to the district improvement plan. This morning, we had our convocation, and I took a few minutes to talk about what we want to emphasize, and I've been writing about this and sharing it with you all and the public. And out of our 3 R's, we really want to hone in on relationships this year. And we talked this morning a little bit about why that is. A lot of the things we see as kind of foundational to improve that are based on relationships. And we know we want to do well with responding to trauma and poverty and cultural and language barriers and intolerance. And so we have come to realize that what underlies doing a great job with all of those things is essentially having kind of a culture of care, it's called. And so if we want relationships to be kind of most central, we should have metrics about it, and we should be clear about what exactly it is we're trying to accomplish. And so I'm sorry, this is moving around by itself here.
Once again,
So when people say, well, we want to improve school climate, what are we talking about? What would that be? And so on this slide you can see, school procedures and norms and so on. There's a list of things. Social and emotional learning, we've talked about that for a couple of years. What exactly is that? What is emotional intelligence? What does it mean to work well with other kids? And then equity work we've been talking about and getting a better understanding of that. What's really exciting, and I shared a couple of articles with you last time about this, is that across all 3 of those domains, there's some things that overlap. And the first one and most important one is supportive relationships. But then there are other things, cultural proficiency, cultural responsiveness, and of course, staff training and their own personal growth and engagement with families. So if we were trying to be strategic, we would really work on those areas in the red, and that's what we are emphasizing this year. Okay, so the draft district improvement plan has 5 goals, and I'll walk you through those, and we can either talk about them as we go, or you can let me kind of ramble on for 10 minutes maybe at the most, and then talk about them collectively or afterwards. Either way, just let me know. So the first goal is around instructional practice, supporting administrators and faculty in their effectiveness with the district's key instructional practices. We call them fundamental instructional practices, just good classroom teaching, the kind of stuff that works. We want to have some goals around that and some work we want to do around that. The outputs, the things we want to accomplish, not the measures really of success, but the tasks we want to do, I'm sorry, I didn't hit that. I include the following. All teachers have a professional practice goal pertaining to a specific fundamental instructional practice. Professional Development Day trainings will be provided on mastering the selected instructional practice. And teachers will engage in action research or lesson study, some type of peer collaboration and perhaps peer observation of each other's teaching to improve their instructional practice. So we are ready to kind of move on, turn up our collaborative efforts a notch this year. Outcomes for that goal include 90% of teachers district-wide will meet their fundamental instructional practice goal. And district, we really think this should have an impact on student learning. And so we would like to measure MCAS growth scores in the grades where MCAS, in the subjects where MCAS growth scores exist. The median is 50 by definition for that system, and we would like to get the average to be 55 across those grade spans for both math and ELA. There are not science growth scores. The second goal, social and emotional learning. Support each school in advancing staff and student social and emotional learning through strengthening school culture and student-teacher relationships. That sounds very lofty. What might it look like? Here you have some things to do. First, each school has a written shared understanding document detailing its school-wide and classroom expectations for establishing behavioral norms and managing student misbehavior. All of that exists, of course, already, but it's not kind of codified in some clear understandings where everyone's got to kind of talk about things like, to what extent do we do restorative practices? To what extent are we a kind of, no excuses kind of school? That is nuanced work, and that needs to continue. Secondly, each school provides faculty with training and methods to improve student-teacher connectedness. Each school will draw upon one or more of the following approaches. Castle's social-emotional learning framework, being a culturally responsive teaching organization, they have a framework about that, or using expanded opportunities for student voice and choice, and we've had some training and we have some good ideas about that. So at the district level, I don't want to impose something on each of the schools, but I do want them to kind of pick among some of these avenues, and they may even pick more than one within a school to advance that work. Third, each school develops a multi-year plan for improving student social and emotional learning. The plan will take a tiered approach, making distinctions among what is it that teachers do, what's the work that counselors do, and what do administrators do. Because when we have kids with real challenging behaviors, we have to be clear that we're not expecting teachers to do everything, that there are definitely roles for other people to support kids with a range of needs. The outcomes we've got for this second goal, grades 3 through 12 student surveys on school climate will show a 10% improvement in indicators of student-teacher connectedness, teacher support, and student voice and choice. What we intend to do, I'm not sure about every school, but I know we've been talking about this in a couple of the schools, and probably we should do it in all of them except Hillcrest, and maybe we can find a way to measure what kids think at Hillcrest in a survey. Not sure exactly how to do that. But what we want to do is have a fall. We don't want to just compare next spring to the past spring. We want to kind of take a benchmark in maybe October And I've also got lots of feedback about the school climate survey tool we've used the last couple of years. I pretty much wrote a lot of that myself based on something I used to use as a middle school principal. And there are, I don't know what they're called, psychometricians or something on here. I've gotten feedback from people that do surveys that say, you know, if this is going to be really important to you all, I've got some suggestions on how to make this maybe a little more valid and reliable. So I think we'll be doing that. I know we'll be doing that. Goal 3, teaching for diversity. We want to support administrators and faculty in the implementation of school-wide actions and classroom lessons that promote inclusive school cultures and a deeper understanding of issues of diversity and equity. The outputs for that include each school takes steps to incorporate elements of the teaching tolerance, social justice standards into their curriculum at each grade level, not in every classroom. We're saying somewhere in each grade level we want kids to advance their learning in these areas. And at the secondary level, administration, faculty, and staff are trained in how to respond to incidents of bias or civil rights violations. That work, it started last year, but we spent a good part of yesterday on that at the secondary level. Outcomes, unit or lesson plans exist at each grade level to document those things are happening. And grade 3 to 12 student surveys will also show improvement related to the specific diversity and equity questions that we ask. The fourth goal about curriculum, we always need to find more time to develop curriculum that reflect fidelity to current state standards and emphasize student understanding through the application of learning in meaningful contexts. What does that look like this coming year? Implementation of the new elementary math program and mapping of the curriculum, selection of new elementary English language arts program in the coming year, creation of additional and more detailed science and social studies units, and applying to the state to have the high school join the innovations pathway designation, they call it, or a program to develop student career readiness and local career opportunities, and all of these things the principals can tell you more about as soon as I stop talking. The outcomes listed there, they kind of match up what I've been talking about. These things will happen, and those products will exist. The fifth and final goal says community engagement, develop effective and consistent systems for homeschool communication. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Work with area districts and stakeholders to explore opportunities for new initiatives, shared programs or services, or restructuring. Again, could be the work, of the planning committees that might get going, or other things as well. And then work with the district's equity committee and other stakeholders to advance district equity and diversity learning. Okay, so, yes?
I just have a question. It notes in goal 2, and I think somewhere in goal 3, grade 3 through 12. Why starting at 3? Why not 2? I'm just thinking of how our schools are made up.
Yeah, I mean, well, if those are MCAS scores related, that's what that would be. So
well, I don't think they are, though. That's what I thought. Student surveys on school climate, and then also, and student teacher
so we thought
connectedness
third grade was about as low as we could go with kind of a Likert scale kind of thing.
Okay.
And maybe we could adapt that.
So, okay. That was it.
Yeah.
Any other
or
questions?
thoughts?
Apparently it's all very clear.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if you all got to flip a coin.
We could go in the order we have them.
Secondary or?
Don't argue about who's going to go first.
All right, let's start from the very beginning. Okay.
All right.
That's right. So it doesn't mess up.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Connor's bringing back the best.
I like it.
Very stylish.
Just have to pull it up here.
So we decided to present together tonight because we spent a lot of time collaborating on our school improvement plans across the 3 elementary schools. And we thought it made the most sense to share our plans as an elementary team. One, because there is so much overlap and we're going to be supporting each other in the implementation, but also because we thought that you might absolutely just fall asleep if you had to hear it 3 times over. So that was the rationale between all of us. And also,
There are some small variations
Yes,
between the schools, so
obviously.
therefore we'll be speaking specifically to our own school.
Right.
But
because we don't have a cookie cutter plan, our schools are different certainly in terms of our communities and the developmental levels of our students and, the specifics of our faculties as well. But a lot of collaborative work went into this.
And it did show when we were reading through it.
Good.
I think it's a lot easier to follow when it has a similar pattern. Even
Right.
when there are some differences, which of course you need, but the similarity of the pattern and the consistency of how it's arranged and the goals, and it really does, I think, make it a lot clearer in the long run.
Good.
That's very helpful.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
All right.
Let's roll.
So this is our elementary school improvement plans for the coming school year.
Okay. So,
And a second. That's not.
things need to stretch out a little bit. I can do it.
Maybe.
It's okay. We're just talking about font
There we
and
go.
old eyes up here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first goal across all of our school improvement plans is improve mathematics teaching and learning primarily through the implementation of the Bridges math program. We are all really excited about the Bridges math program. This program was chosen by faculty members who collaborated on an elementary math committee that was led by Christine Limoges, and there were also principals involved in that committee as well. I believe you served on that committee. The reason for choosing this particular program, after reviewing several, was one, it was research-based, so we know that's where we're always going to go. Also, there was a strong emphasis on conceptual understanding of mathematics. Also, a heavy use of visual models for students to explore their thinking and explain their thinking. Also helping children to develop habits of mind and approaches to problem solving, so that the way that they approach a math problem is, it's not just based on one algorithm, that there is conceptual understanding there. Also, this particular program provided a really nice continuation of the prior work that many of our faculty members had done with the U.S. Math Recovery Council and Advantage Math Recovery. Another really exciting thing about this program is that it begins in preschool. So we're really excited to have something where there's alignment beginning in preschool. So This will involve training and PD for teachers. There will be shared professional practice goals around mathematics instruction and our use of fundamental instructional practices. Our teacher teams will be engaging in a cycle of inquiry around math learning, and also application of math learning through authentic concepts with project-based learning at Yale. These are the measurable outcomes, and there are 2 that are generalized, and then each principal will go into his or her own. During our math observations, use of the Bridges curriculum and instructional methodologies will be observable in 100% of lessons, and also 100% of elementary teachers will have a professional practice goal related to a team-selected fundamental instructional practice. And on to Gil.
So in GIL, the things that we'll be looking to see are FIPS, which are our fundamental instructional practices, being observed in 80% of math lessons. So when observations are conducted, we'll be kind of tracking to see, make sure that they're being used. In 100% of classrooms will have student work celebration. This is something that really kind of comes from some of our project-based learning work, where students, having worked on something for an extended period, can get a chance to share it to their classmates, to their school community, and to their outside community, and highlight not just what they did, but sort of what they learned throughout the process.
At Hillcrest, a measurable outcome for goal number 1 is that 85% of kindergarten and first grade students will reach mastery on selected math standards as demonstrated by iReady data. This will be the first year that we'll be using iReady at Hillcrest. It's already in use at Gill and Sheffield.
And then for Sheffield, because third grade starts MCAS, we want to set a goal of having 60% of our third grade students scoring proficiency on this first assessment. And because we have data from 4th and 5th previously, we're looking to have our math scores be at least an average of 60% or greater for grades 4 and 5.
Next.
So the second goal has to do with the GMSRD, the Gill Language and School District Literacy Plan alignment. So the nice thing is we have collaborated with principals all summer to create a new document, or a district-wide document. So this is not a new phenomenon, it's a literacy plan, but what we've done is we have now consolidated these instructional practices, clarified and spell out grade level expectations specifically in this plan, to provide, and also to provide summative assessments across the district. So we are in the process of sharing our literacy plan with our staff, using these guides for professional conversations when they're working collaboratively in their PLCs around instruction, assessment, and planning, as well as providing training. We had worked with Teresa from University of Hartford. She's coming back in to provide more training not only to our new teachers, but also to do coaching in all 3 elementary schools. Previously, she had done a majority of her work at Sheffield, and then also some work in Hillcrest. This year, she will split her time between all 3 elementary schools. So one of the measurable outcomes for that is that during ELA observations, the components of the literacy plan will be observed 100% of the time. We are expecting 85% of kindergarten and first grade students to reach the end of year benchmark assessment system levels for their grade. So that would be a level D for kindergarten and a J for first grade. And 85% of our second, third, fourth, and fifth grade students will reach their end of the year benchmark assessment system levels for their grade. So that will be an M for second, a P for third, an S for fourth, and a V for fifth.
So the third goal we have is the school-wide focus on teaching for diversity. And that goal exists across all three elementary schools. So the specific initiatives under that are introducing the teaching tolerance and social justice standards to the school community. That includes both teachers, staff, as well as to the family school community, and how we're using those. Building and using diverse book libraries in our buildings. In Sheffield, we'll be doing a school-wide reading. One of the focuses of this particular standard is on using literature to ground conversations about diversity. That's a tool that we have ready at our disposal, and there is some incredible work, some really great books for kids that bring these issues to the forefront. And so by having those conversations, we can engage our students in a pretty deep level of discourse. Now, this initiative, or this goal rather, it also calls for designated time during staff meetings to engage in professional collaboration about this topic. This is something, PD time in any district or any school is coveted. So the fact that we are really focusing and saying that we're gonna have this specific time designated to this work, I think we all think reflects a priority of diversity education in our schools. Our combined goals are really staff meeting minutes. We're going to show a focus on diversity standards 4 times throughout the year. So by having it not just kind of a one-shot deal, by really kind of cycling through and tracking how we're doing as a staff, that will allow us to kind of assess our own work at our own schools in that regard. At Gill Elementary School, we're looking to build our diverse books library. We're in the process of purchasing books, getting those to classrooms, and using them. And the measurable goal for us is that 100% of teachers will submit evidence of learning experiences focused on the Teaching for Tolerance standards. So that can include lesson plans, student work, school celebrations, things that they have done to showcase the work that they've done in that area.
For Sheffield, we're looking at 100% of our classroom teachers to do some type of read aloud to their whole class from a dedicated Sheffield diverse book collection at least once a month.
And at Hillcrest, similar to Sheffield, 100% of our Hillcrest teachers will read aloud to the whole class a text from our Hillcrest Diverse Books collection at least once per month. And we have a little tool on Teach Point for tracking that.
Melissa, could you say a little bit about the shared book?
Yeah, in fact, I was wondering, I thought that was on
That was on a
the
previous slide, but
okay. So one
it's
of the
really
things,
exciting.
Yeah, one of the things that we decided to do at Sheffield was in October, we are going to do a book study, Fly Away Home by E. Bunting. And the reason for that is we wanted to make sure that we were preparing staff to be able to have teaching talking points with their students, and we're in the process of trying to figure out a way to possibly even videotape one of those and put that on our website so that parents can also see some of those talking points and questions that were used during that book study. So we thought that would be the easiest and best way to do that and make more of our staff feel comfortable was to do that as a whole school.
Thank you. So, goal number 4 is improve student social emotional learning, which Michael already talked a bit about in the district improvement plan. This involves a recommitment to responsive classroom practices in all elementary classrooms. As you all know, responsive classroom has been a foundational piece in Gill-Montague for a long time. So this goal gives us a chance to revive and refresh our practices, our RC practices, in order to boost social emotional learning. Over the past few years, there have been multiple opportunities for staff to either take RC courses for the first time or to get refresher courses. Most recently, there was a 4-day elementary core course, which was offered in June, and we had really good attendance at that. From administrators to classroom teachers to paraprofessionals, there's really good turnout for that. And so, again, this gives us an opportunity to build positive relationships among various stakeholders in the community. We want to make sure that we have a warm, positive, and welcoming school climate for students and for families. We're going to work on reviewing the 4 domains of responsive classroom: engaging academics, positive community, developmentally responsive teaching, and effective management, with a specific focus on management at Gill and Sheffield. And building connections between, I think this refers to building connections outside of academic learning. Are you meaning that connecting points that are just...
Yeah, so I would think when you put this in, we were thinking about building the connections so that it's not just something that's done in school, so that families
Yes.
outside of school know what we're doing. They are familiar with those practices,
Right.
with the language and the tools that are being used. And so for this particular goal, some of our measurable outcomes were different than each other, so significant enough so that we each have our own slide. So the measurable outcomes for Goal 4 at Gill are, first of all, looking at observations done in classrooms and looking at the use of responsive classroom practices. So, we've had this training. We've done a lot of work and invested quite a bit of time and energy and money as a district, and so we want to see that it's happening. And so by beginning in October, we'd like to see that happening in at least 80%, preferably 100%, but at least 80% of classrooms. And so the second two measurable goals, so every year we give our students a survey sort of about their experience. And the two lowest scores for Gill were the question about students, the question is, students generally behave the way teachers want them to, and it was, agree different levels. So currently we have 72.8% of students saying that, kids generally behave the way teachers want them to. I don't think that's quite high enough. Similarly, and this one was kind of a surprise to me, to be honest, was that the question about, was students agreeing that they can talk to an adult about their problems. So 76.6% said that they agreed with that, and I would have thought that it would have been a lot higher. So those are two, coming from that data, those are two areas where we'd like to really see those numbers crank up.
Okay, so measurable outcomes around this goal for Hillcrest is that our staff meetings and agendas will include a focus on responsive classroom practices 3 times over the course of the school year. Again, that's another opportunity for professional collaboration and ways for our staff to support one another. We will also this year be conducting a parent survey focused on school climate 3 times over the course of the year. And after the first 2, setting action steps based on that data. Identify and implement 2 of those action steps by May, and then we'll do a final school climate survey after May, so in June.
And then for Sheffield, beginning in October, 80% of our classroom evaluations will reflect the responsive classroom practices, including morning meeting, positive teacher language, the use of energizers, and/or academic choice. Staff meeting agendas and minutes will include a focus on responsive classroom practices 4 times a year at least. And we also, from the school survey, were a little bit concerned about some of the ways that our students responded to the fact that students respond the way or behave the way their teachers want them to. So we'll be having conversations and creating some action steps and look to see that at least 25% improvement, or at least 25 points of improvement in that question pertaining to student climate when that survey is redone. Last goal, increased community engagement around teaching and learning. So we understand that partnering with families is paramount in the work that we do to both educate and support our students, and we're looking to provide consistency when providing communication and news about students' classroom experiences, what's happening in our schools and events, as well as academic learning. So this year, in addition to providing fun community-based building events for our families, we're also looking to provide information sessions to our new Bridges math program, as well as the diversity initiatives that we're all taking as well. So we're looking to have more consistent communication practices involving our parents in the math and diversity initiatives, and then for Gail, the mission and revision. So some measurable outcomes combined for all of our schools is a written set of practices for homeschool communication to exist between our elementary schools, to also host 4 different family events, as mentioned earlier, about trying to educate and to share information to our parents, not only about ways they can become involved in fun events, but also specifically around those bridges and diversity initiatives, and then Gail.
And so the goal for Gil is by November to have a new mission and vision that is revised, published, and shared with the community. This came about, sort of the idea to do this came out last year. We realized that we have had a pretty good stretch of relative stability. We've had a team that's been working really hard, and then we realized that we have a kind of an outdated mission and vision for the group and team that we have, and we'd like to take a fresh look at it and see and make sure that it reflects sort of the values that we have, that it reflects what we do, kind of who we are, and how we plan to get where we want to go. So that the suggestion to do that actually came from the staff toward the end of last year. So anytime anyone wants to take a stab at that it's a good time to do it. So
we're ready for questions.
Yeah.
Anyone have any specific questions?
Hey, it looks great.
It was very,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, that made it really clear, and putting them together, really getting a good reference point too, I think that's a great idea.
Excellent.
Speaks to the single-mindedness of purpose across the district as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably.
I just think,
Do you want this to be the same thing that you see up there, or?
no, that's fine, so I need to get into
Join.
Yes. Oh, okay, all right.
I just log.
Sorry for the short delay, just need to bring it up.
Log out of my account,
Yep.
so I don't leave it wide open.
I just don't have like pulling it over, so, thank you.
All right.
Worth noting that we finally got air conditioning before the summer ended.
I noticed that today.
Or maybe it's cool enough outside now that.
I'll say it.
All of the above. I think the problem was it had been set to unoccupied,
Oh.
and so he made sure that it was set to occupied for today.
Hey.
Ask you to work your
It's my technical support.
So,
Do I need to download it or
I don't.
just start it?
Yeah, probably need to download it, actually.
I just don't know how to make it big.
Yeah, so do you have like speaker notes and stuff?
No.
Okay, so then I might just duplicate the screen here.
Yeah.
So you can see here, otherwise you won't see what's
Oh,
there
yes,
on
please, I
here.
need to
Yeah.
see that.
All right.
Talk about MASC.
Oh, yes, that should be Yeah, I
Is
know.
everything in every minute.
Jen can do it, but
Hmm?
I'm
All
not
right.
sure
Just doing that, right?
what age
Oh.
she's gonna be.
Whoa.
There you go.
That's fine. Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay. All right, so this is a product of a lot of work, and let me kind of explain what I mean by that. So both the superintendent and I have put a lot of work and effort into this, but prior to that, before I even started, I was able to come and work on the turnaround plan. So thoughts from the turnaround plan are in this. Thoughts from NEASC are in this. And then the superintendent and I worked on this a lot, and then I was able to bring it back to the curriculum coordinators this week. Was that last week?
Last week, yeah.
Last week, and able to tweak it again. So it's had a lot of different eyes, a lot of different input, a lot of different stakeholders involved in the process, and next year there'll be even more. I will involve school council in that too. So here is our improvement plan for the year. So we have 6 goals. You're going to see a lot of alignment to the district plan. So the first goal is to improve student social and emotional learning by strengthening school culture and individual relationships. That is key. You're going to see a lot of initiatives tied to this. So we have objective 1.1, and that's to create a more comfortable, positive, and welcoming school climate, which we've already been working on and gotten a lot of positive feedback so far. But our first initiative in this is to develop and publish a shared and detailed common understanding of the school system for responding to behavior infractions. That's been wanted by parents, teachers, and students. Staff has gotten a very brief overview today. We had a tech training with Tina today with the whole staff, and Tom and I were able to talk to them for about an hour and a half, and they're very excited that we've been partnering with Tina, and we are utilizing Rediker to document everything. So just so you guys know that Mike Dupree will have 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. Rebel McKinley will have 7, 9, and 11. And then the following year, they will reverse. So what's happening is they are following grades until they graduate. But we are using Rediker to document everything for behavior and attendance. And we'll have a very shared common understanding. Tom is meeting with Mike and Rebel at the end of every day, and then Tom and I are meeting every day. Just like the superintendent and I will be doing calibration exercises on evaluation tools, they will be doing calibration exercises on behavior and how you would be writing something up to make sure we're all on the same page. So there will be consistency. Our initiative 1.1b is to establish a shared set of school and classroom norms that apply across the high school and improve the consistency and implementation of norms that are co-created with students and specific to each community. So what do we mean by that? Like the classroom, different groups, etc. Staff, curriculum coordinators, we're very excited about this. Staff are very excited about this. It's tied in nicely to the student voice and choice. And again, having consistency, having expectations across the board. The first day of school for both the middle school and high school, Tom and I will be meeting with the entire schools. We will be talking to them about 15 minutes about shared expectations, what we're expecting from day one. We also have representatives coming from tech, from the cafeteria, and from custodial, so they can associate faces. If I mess up and I make more work, you're impacting this specific person. So we're tying it into making that family community. We're all in this together. It's not just administration, it's not just staff, it's not just students, it's everybody that works at this school. And they're excited about it. So our third initiative underneath this objective is to develop and publish a description of the school's tiered systems of behavioral supports in which administration, counselors, teachers, and carers have differentiated roles. This ties directly to what the superintendent was talking about in one of his goals. I can't recall which goal, but we need to clearly define that. You know, we all need to be on the same page so we know who's responsible for what. Our fourth initiative under this objective is to conduct community building events to promote school spirit and feelings of belongings and common purpose. We have already started doing that. We're doing that. The students are so excited to be a part of that. Tom and I are creating a school
wide school and culture club. The students have already come up with some exciting community building events that we're going to do that the community would be involved to that would come after school. So I'm not going to spoil some surprises, but you guys will be pleasantly surprised. Okay, so objective 1.2 under goal 1 is to increase teacher effectiveness with classroom management. And how are we going to do that? We're going to provide trainings and coaching to assist teachers in classroom management and managing and supporting high behavior needs students. It's really nice because in this district we have a shared, coming into as a new person, it's really nice because a lot of the teachers have a lot of the same books. So if we're referring to classroom management, we're going to be able to reference, go to the green book on page blah, blah, blah to help you out. We are going to be purchasing other books that are still coming that the curriculum coordinator purchased, so we'll have that shared common set of understandings. The third objective under goal 1 is to improve student feelings of support and connectiveness with their teachers. So how are we going to do that? So we need to provide teacher resources and training and feedback and specific strategies to enhance student feelings of support and connectedness through the following approaches. So this ties directly back to the superintendent's district goals. So we're going to be incorporating culturally responsive teaching practices. The admin team, we concentrated on that this summer. So I think we're going to be using a lot of the exercises the administrative team did over the summer, which were very helpful. We are going to incorporate CASEL's social and emotional learning resources. We'll be bringing back, I apologize, Michael, where is Abby from?
Research for Better Teaching.
Thank you. So we'll be bringing her back. She did an incredible job at our administrative retreat. And we'll also be working on increased opportunities for student voice and choice. That is already happening. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. Our next initiative with this goal is to implement routine and proactive uses of circles and other restorative and anti-bias practices, and that will be facilitated by classroom teachers, counselor, dean of students, and that's all to build community and create strong, positive student-staff relationships. We know that we need to do PD to help the teachers out on that, to feel comfortable with that. The third initiative under this objective is we need to definitely examine the best uses of gap time, and I'm thinking probably we will extend this goal and to try to implement it the following year. The fourth initiative under this objective is to improve the effectiveness of the high school advisory program to build community and create strong, positive student-staff relationships. They did a lot of training over the summer. The first staff meeting, they are going to do some professional development with the whole staff. We discussed today in our hour and a half if we wanted to extend the advisory to 2 days a week in the high school. We determined, because we're totally restructuring the high school morning meeting time, that it's going to be student-driven. They are actually presenting it. Not probably for the first 1 or 2. Tom and I will be working with them and helping to train them and kind of getting them to know, so it's kind of unrealistic to say, hey, first morning meeting, okay guys, just get up there and do it. So, we need to be the adults and scaffold for them and support them, but on a regular basis, that's what they will be doing, and the staff was quite excited about that. So they said if that works out, we do not want to extend advisory because it's really important that they have student voice and choice in that. Okay, so we have another objective under this goal. So that every grade level, we're going to create opportunities for students to increase their multicultural understanding. This is exactly what the superintendent alluded to. It's not going to be in every classroom, but it will be in every grade. But what we talked about with the curriculum coordinators, they will be spending some time working on initiative 1.4A in their department meetings. So they're going to be working on, together in departments, developing units and lesson plans or some kind of learning experience at each grade level to advance our students' understandings of teaching tolerances, social justice standards. We'll also be working on that at faculty meetings. We were lucky enough to go to a training this summer at GCC. We will be using a lot of those tools from Teaching Tolerance that we did as participants in that. And I think I had at least 5 to 7 people, I'm not quite sure, who were at the training, so we'll be breaking out into smaller groups and they'll be able to facilitate that. So it just will not be me. Another initiative under the school is to provide a team building, equity, and social justice promoting opportunity for incoming 9th graders. I'm happy to say that we are working out already. They are going to Morse Hill, the ropes course. Very excited, and we are hoping to make that an annual event. So that is, it's being discussed right now, but we're looking at hopefully sometime in September that will be happening. So that will be a fall event, so they can make those bonds and, you know, meld that community early on. So how are we going to measure goal 1? So what are our outcomes? So our first outcome, we would like to be the percentage of students absent more than 10 days per year decreases by 5%. We are tracking that diligently and consistently. Number 2, the percentage of students agreeing or strongly agreeing with positive statements about school climate increases by 20%. I'm hoping a lot more than that, but I'm going to be realistic. Number 3, the percentage of students agreeing or strongly agreeing with positive statements about their connection with or support from their teachers increases by 10%. And the school will establish and implement a system for closely and consistently tracking the following: civil rights violations, bullying, or harassment. Tina's incredible. There's a lot of DESE documents and some documents that Tina's created that we are sharing and deciding collectively. This violation constitutes this. This violation constitutes this. DESE has not clearly defined that, so we're going to make a clear distinction here, and we'll be consistent across the board. Any questions about goal 1? Yes?
When you put these goals in place, it
Yes.
says develop and publish, but there are no timeframes. I mean, you give it for the year. As a parent, I would like to know when these things are going to be going into effect. You did say on 1.1b from the first day of school, but on the other ones, when compared, it would be helpful for parents to be able to look for these things. They got all sorts of other things coming at them, and then when you publish when you say this, and then they have no idea when to expect it.
So you're expecting months then, or?
No,
because these are all the school years, so.
Oh, okay, but when you say you're going to develop and publish something, usually there's a deadline for publishing, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
All right.
And
Okay.
I can respond to that. What we don't want to overwhelm you with tonight is for every one of those initiatives, Joni hasn't seen one of these documents yet, there's an initiative planner that they all
Okay.
have to fill out about. So what are the components of that? Who's responsible and when are they going to happen? And so we will have that. That's not typically shown widely, but we could definitely make that available.
that's one of the points I'm trying to make.
Okay.
If you say this is one of your goals for the school year, but you don't reach that, you don't publish till the end of the year, I don't see how that is really effective for the parents, and that's what I'm concerned about. They need timely information.
Well, the improvement plan is for the overall school district and the schools.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still need to have some parameters.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on goal 1? Thank you for that. Okay, goal 2, we have 6 goals. So the second one is to improve the use of one of the district's fundamental instructional practices, or a FIP, through training and teacher collaboration. You can see that was both in the district plan and in the elementary plans. So how are we going to do that? So we have 3 initiatives to do that. So we're going to continue to train administrators and faculty in one of the district's fundamental instructional practices, or the FIP. It was decided at the curriculum coordinators meeting that that is going to be decided by curriculum, or by departments. So they're all identified by the district, but it will be identified by departments. So then Initiative 2.2 will be carried out in department meetings and faculty meetings. So we will be training the teachers in lesson study process to collaborate on the FIP to be improved. So we're expecting teachers to get together in faculty meeting time and in department meeting time, and analyze student work, analyze their lessons, and then we are going to provide time in order for them to observe their peers. So there's 4 teachers, and I'm the one running the lesson. I'm going to ask my 4 colleagues, I want you to concentrate on looking for this, I want you to concentrate on looking for this, and they would come back together and debrief. It's very powerful that they can have those conversations, and we're building that community, and they're ready for it. So our third initiative with this goal is to engage in lesson study process to improve the practice with the selected FIP, which I already alluded to. So what are our measurable outcomes? How are we going to see this happening? So 80% of announced classroom observations by evaluators from February through May are going to show the FIP being used. 60% of teacher survey respondents are going to report that they feel that they are using the FIP effectively. 80% of our teachers are going to report that they had multiple opportunities to collaborate and practice chosen FIP. That's on me to provide that. And 100% of our departments are going to report that they use the lesson study process and that they found it to be effective in improving teacher instructional practice. So what I loved about all of these, the curriculum coordinators are all on board with this. And they're like, yes, it needs to be 100%. So, any questions about goal 2? All right. Goal 3, continue to develop units of instruction that incorporate performance-based assessments and develop students' understanding in the school's core competencies. So how are we going to do that? So we have our first objective. We're going to increase the use of performance-based assessments, and we will meet that by using curriculum, area, and department meetings to develop and share performance-based assessments, formative assessments, and student work samples to inform instructional practice. So, I really need to be mindful and cognizant of making sure to include faculty meeting time for that. They're going to need more than just department meeting time for that to accomplish those goals. Our second objective under this goal is to further develop a shared understanding of competency-based education and how it can be practiced in our school. How are we going to do this? This is quite exciting. So we're going to extend, it's not going to be limited to the people that were our middle school and high school teachers that were involved in the Powertown grant to begin with. But we'll open it up to new people if they would like, but they're going to visit schools and continue research, and they're going to facilitate dialogue and make recommendations of innovative practices that we can do. And I'll get into that more in just a second.
Joni,
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that and say that
Yes.
what's making that possible is there's still a significant amount of Powertown project grant money that's going to fund our ability to have teachers do that work.
Absolutely. So where are going to be our measurable outcomes from goal 3? So 100% of our teachers are going to develop and share at least one performance-based assessment or formative assessment or student work samples that were used to inform instructional practice. Where will that be done? It will be done in front of their peers in department meetings, in faculty meetings. So, not everybody likes to share in front of a big crowd. So if they're not comfortable doing it at a faculty meeting, they can do it in their departments. But the expectation is that everyone is going to be doing that. Again, curriculum coordinators all on board with this. 80% of our departments are going to report that they found it to be effective in improving teacher instructional practice when they shared these performance-based assessments, formative assessments, and/or student work samples. For all of us who are past teachers in this room, we know how powerful it is to work with your same level and to get feedback from them. Just as it's powerful to work in an administrative team and get feedback, it's just as powerful for teachers to have those opportunities. So we're going to take advantage of those Powertown people, and we're going to ask them to visit at least 3 schools to discover innovative practices. They're going to come back and share them with us, and they're going to present findings and make recommendations at least 4 times, including 1 faculty meeting. A lot of these things, too, I would be sharing out in my bi-monthly newsletters. I'll get into that in just a little bit. Any questions or comments on goal 3? Moving on, goal 4. Okay, so redesign and implement a new system of support for struggling students. What do we mean by that? So this was an overwhelming comment when I was interviewing, that the current SST team thinks that we totally need to revamp our system. So administrators and faculty are going to study models of an effective student support team, or our SST process, and response to intervention, or RTI, which we're required to do by DESE, in order to develop and implement one. So how are we going to measure that? We are going to actually have these. So we are going to, Tom announced the first SST meeting, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember because we just changed this day, but it is, I think, next week. So we're off and running right away. Tom will be running that. I will be popping in as needed. So they are redesigning all that. We'll be looking at other schools, what people like about other places. People are kind of researching it on their own, what they wanted to add to it. And we'll also be changing our RTI in response to intervention. And we'll be looking to implement what we discover next year. I'm sorry, any questions on goal 4? Yes?
Just out of curiosity,
Yes.
where would you find models of effective SST?
So a lot of us have been in other districts. And so, like, I used to run the SST process in Petersham. And then I'm in, like, regional principals groups that we can just reach out and say, hey, what worked? And to kind of piggyback that, our counselors here are very well connected. So they're kind of a regional principals groups, and they'll reach out and say, hey, how have you guys designed this? You know, how did you implement it? What data did you use? Who was sitting around the table? How often did you meet? You know, all of those types of things. So again, it's giving faculty voice and choice in this case.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Goal 5. So increasing family engagement by communicating to all middle school and high school families about student learning opportunities. How are we going to do this? So we're going to use 4 different ways to do this. So teachers are going to communicate with families about curricula assignments and student performance in a school consistent manner. As the superintendent stated, that's still being worked out contractually. The second initiative will basically be me with the help of my whole staff. So what I am doing, using a tool called Some More. So I'll be creating bi-weekly community newsletters and also weekly staff newsletters, just so you guys know. But in the community newsletters, I will be sharing examples of student learning opportunities, and those newsletter links will be shared on the Plus portal. And then actually, I will be having 2 principal chats. If you look at initiative 5.3, in my interviews, it was made very clear that community members and families want to have a vehicle to be able to communicate, 2-way communication with me being the principal, and they also wanted opportunities to be off-site too. So the first one, I've already talked to the, is their title executive director? I apologize. Brick House, and I'm going to be having an afternoon one in September, and there'll be an evening one in September at our school, and then I'll flip-flop. In October will be a day one here and an evening one elsewhere. And I'll be kind of moving around the community to places a lot of people go. That is just basically to get feedback, to share positive news. So that is another way we will be sharing positive news. And then also in Initiative 5.4, a team of teachers and myself, we're going to create an evening event where community members view student work. Which is going to be exciting to get the community back in here. So how are we going to figure out that we've done this? So another exciting thing is you're going to have those, I am asking the staff to communicate to me, and they all have my cell phone number, so they've already been texting me and sending me pictures that are going to be in that bi-monthly newsletter. And then also we're reinstituting, and Michael, you might be able to shed some more light. Years ago, and I don't know if this is during your time or tenure, the students used to be regular reporters to the Montague Reporter, and we are restarting that. So you would know more than me. So yes, okay. So we are taking full advantage of their kindness and getting the students back on board. And they'll be working with English teachers on that to do all that. So we'll be having lots of pictures. So I want to thank all of you for helping us with that. So again, more positive news, guys. 100% of the departments are represented in student learning opportunities articles within the year. I told the staff, I don't care what you teach, guess what? You need to get me pictures. Everybody needs to be represented. And they're like, okay, we'll sign in blood. I'm like, all right. Okay, and then during 100%, so all the principals' chats, I will make sure to bring examples of student learning opportunities to share out with the community. And then we have that spring evening event that we're inviting the community, and Caitlin Miner will be telling you about lots of opportunities that the students are going to be running that will bring the community back, starting in the fall, which will be very great. And then the superintendent's already said this, but our goal 6 is to pursue the Innovation Pathways program with DESE. So Michael and I are going to be writing that, so it's going to be written. And we're doing it this fall. Michael, if you could just say, we've been working with, I'm sorry, help me out.
Bay-State Health Systems.
Yes,
Yeah,
and also the
Greenfield
work,
Hospital.
I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, the woman from the work.
Patricia Crosby from the
Workforce?
The WEAB, I don't
Yes,
I forget
thank
what
you.
that stands for. She's been
Yes.
a great help already.
Yes.
Yep.
So she's identified the top 5 areas, correct me if I'm wrong?
Well, yeah, not her, but
DESE.
she's been, her organization.
Right.
Right, the state of Massachusetts is very interested in promoting student learning and preparation for careers in areas that they see as dynamic and growing employment sectors. And so we've, health care and social services, advanced manufacturing, different parts of the state have different ones. And so we're going to try and align with them.
We will. So how are we going to know we've met that goal?
Regional
So-
Employment Board, I think is.
There you go. So how do we know we will submit the grant by the deadline? Any questions or comments? Yes.
What is the deadline?
It's this fall, it's in September.
Okay.
Oh, the grant, that's, yeah.
Right around the
Friday,
corner.
September 13th.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Joni doesn't sleep much.
And
No,
get used to
neither
it.
do you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You all have had an incredibly long day. Your first faculty meetings and all that, you must be zonked.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I think we just want to make a comment.
Oh, I just wanted to say goal 5 for that. Well, I'm just really excited to see student work. From all of you, I know Connor mentioned it, I'm sure I'll see it from Sheffield and others.
And the
Thanks
student
so much for
involvement
coming.
piece.
Yes.
Big
Yeah,
stuff.
very good.
She'll be coming. I don't want to steal her thunder, but they have incredible ideas. They've been very respectful about not putting anything forth that is not school appropriate or unrealistic. Tom and I have said yes to everything. So the more we say yes, the more excited they get.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just going to be phenomenal. We are literally rolling out the red carpet for them the first day of school. Red carpet, and we have music playing. We're going to be with the seniors, watch the sunrise, play some lawn games together. They'll come in and run it along with the juniors. It's a lot of energy. We have drones coming to take our pictures the second day of school. Staff parties already scheduled, so it's fun. A lot of positivity, so be good.
That's good.
Glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much.
That was awesome.
Great. Okay, so we've got the district improvement plan and all the school improvement plans, and things are happening. Great. Next on our list for business, approval of job descriptions and salary ranges for district administrators. And we do need to vote the salary ranges for each of the administrators. I just have a little paragraph to read first about how this all comes about. The school committee has the responsibility of reviewing and approving the job descriptions for the district's administrators. These job descriptions include salary ranges. Tonight, we're reviewing job descriptions with updated salary ranges for the following 9 administrators: the 4 principals, the 1 assistant principal, the director of teaching and learning / Sheffield assistant principal, the technology and data director, the director of pupil services, and the director of business and operations. The superintendent has made salary range recommendations based upon the following factors: First, the salaries of administrators in the area doing comparable positions are compared. Secondly, the likely pay should we wish to refill the position with someone having limited experience, and that helps us establish a minimum salary threshold for someone who might be new in the position. And then the likely salary needed to renew an existing contract 2 more times, so that each time a contract, they generally run for 3 years, and the salary range should be large enough that each year it doesn't have to come back to the school committee, the range should cover enough. So that establishes the maximum salary threshold. And what we need to do at this point is, as part of our responsibility, we need to vote to approve the job descriptions, which are all included in our packet this evening for all of those positions, and also to approve the salary ranges they include. And should I perhaps read this, or just, it can just be included with the thing, whatever the group likes. I can read what the new salary ranges proposed are that we are voting on, or not, okay? For secondary associate principal, the range would be from $85,000 to $100,000. For the secondary principal, it would be $98,000 to $118,000. For the Sheffield principal, the range would be $85,000 to $100,000. For the Guild principal, $83,000 to $98,000. For the Hillcrest principal, who's also the early childhood coordinator, $85,000 to $100,000. For the director of teaching and learning and the Sheffield associate principal, assistant principal, sorry, $85,000 to $108,000. For the director of tech and data, $80,000 to $95,000. For the director of pupil services, $95,000 to $120,000. And for the director of business and operations, $90,000 to $126,000. So I will entertain a motion to approve the job descriptions along with those salary ranges.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Cassie moved and Heather seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. I believe the only other item that we need to deal with at the meeting this evening is selection of representative to the MASC Delegate Assembly in November. Each school committee's representative who is a voting member of the Delegate Assembly needs to be, the information needs to be voted and sent in by October. There's a form that needs to go in. Cassie?
I was just going to suggest that we have you do it
That's what I was
because you always
just
do it and
gonna
you're so good
I'll
at it.
second it.
If nobody is
I'm sorry, I'm not going
opposed to
You know,
that.
right, I'm not sure if anybody else will be there that day. It
Well, and
may
I
be
think
just me.
I mean, you understand the
It is,
procedure
yes,
of it.
and I appreciate that, yes, sure. And I will certainly be able to do that, I'll be there. So, I guess I'm nominated.
Yes. Do you
Motion to
accept?
close nominations?
And I think you're supposed to vote on it, I think, actually.
Yeah.
So do we have a nomination?
Yeah.
Do we have
Yeah.
a second?
Second.
So,
All
do
in
what you
favor?
will. All those in favor? I guess I'll go with it.
Thank you.
That was easy.
So it's unanimous, we're good.
For anyone in the future, I did it last year, and it's actually fairly interesting, if not rather frustrating, because
It's-
this meeting times
Yeah, it's huge.
100,
It's huge.
but it's interesting.
And there's
It's
usually
not
about
that-
a
it's not that
dozen,
bad.
there's usually about a dozen.
Well,
things.
Can I just ask a question? Only 4, she can't vote. So there's only 4 out of 9.
Actually, to be the delegate, I believe
I
I
think
can
she
vote.
She can
It's
vote
not a
twice.
money,
Raise
it's
your
not,
hand.
there's no money involved.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
getting paid, it's like
There's
less
nothing,
than
there's nothing of value.
There's nothing that you really want from this. You get to sit there for hours and be frustrated by the conversation and then go out.
Too late, we voted on it.
Yeah, I know. I was tempted to not mention it, then we wouldn't have to have a delegate, but there you go, there you go. There are no particular minutes to be approved at this time. If you have any agenda requests, please submit them anytime you think of them. We do keep an ongoing list of things to come back to and cover. Our next regular meeting is September 10th in this room at 6:30. If there is an executive session, that will be noted and it will be beforehand.
Do you happen to know if you think there will be? Just
I'm
Just
thinking
assume.
I'm
I'll
assuming. I know, we've had, now,
It's better to assume,
We've
yes.
had one every
Yeah,
meeting
it's
for
got
quite
to
some
be
time.
kind of a routine.
No idea, really.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn,
Motion
please.
to adjourn.
All right, Mike moved to adjourn, Cassie seconded, all those in favor, put your hand up.
I haven't typed it.
Oh,
I still.